wonderful storytellers from every corner of the globe. So there is something absolutely for everybody. What else do I want to say? So my name is Órla McGovern, and I live in Galway in the west of Ireland. And I'm about 1.5 miles from the sea and 1.5 miles to the hills. So I'm in a good spot. I'm in the suburbs, but I'm in a really good spot. When we do our storytelling, normally we love to have you in the room right in front of us so we can connect with you and we can see you and we can hear you and we can smell you. But in these times, things have changed. We're doing this virtually. But the good thing about that is we can reach you all over the world, wherever you are. We can come into your sitting room. So you can sit there, you don't have to get dressed. You can sit there in your bathrobe with your cup of tea and watch stories. And you don't have to put on your suit, but you can if you want. My friend John always dresses up. He always looks very dandy. So do whatever you feel like. If you would like to contribute to the storytellers as we tell stories, at the bottom of the page on the website, or possibly in the link, I think in the YouTube, there's a little link to where you can throw some coins in the hat, because we are locked in as well. We may glide through the air to visit you in your sitting rooms, but we are also unable to come in real life to your houses and homes, to your libraries, to your theatres, to your festivals. So if you feel like donating a little bit, we would really, really appreciate it. I can't thank the World Storytelling Cafe enough. My heart is very full whenever I tune in to anybody's stories. There's a motley crew, I have to say. It's quite a beautiful motley crew of people. All styles, all countries, everything. Wonderful, wonderful bunch. So thanks to everyone. I'm just going to see who's in the room. A few people in the room here today, and wherever you're watching, you're very, very welcome. So today I thought I would tell a few mischief stories. Last night there was a lovely set of trickster stories that I couldn't stay for the whole lot, so I thought I'd continue on with a little bit of mischief. And I grew up in Dublin, the other side of Ireland. I'm on the west coast and Dublin's on the east coast. I'm a dub, as they say, and I'd like to tell you a Dublin story to start off with. So there's a couple of kinds of mischief you can get up to. You can get up to kind of innocent enough mischief, or you can get up to real mischief. You know the kind I'm talking about, the scary kind, the people or the creatures you have to watch out for. So the first kind is a little bit about the nicer kind of mischief. And when we were kids, we did this very naughty thing of knocking on people's front doors and running away and hiding. And it's got different names all over the world. It's called knick-knack. It's called Nick the Knocker. It's called, if you had a doorbell, it was called ring and run. And basically you would hit the doorbell and then you would watch as the poor person came out and there was nobody at the door and they went back inside. So great fun for us. Not as much fun if you're sitting and you put your feet up and you have a big cup of cocoa in your hands and you're looking forward to watching the telly and some kids are knocking on your door. But this is a story about that. But there's also something else we used to do when we were kids in Dublin, out playing on the streets. We would be out on the streets every day. And we would play games like skipping and chasing. But there was a game we used to play called different names. We used to call it German jumps. It's sometimes called French skipping, or it's called elastics. And you would get a big string of elastics and you would stand, two people here, and you would put the elastics all around your legs like that. So they would be around your ankles and stretched out. And then one other person would jump in between. I don't know if anybody in the Zoom room played that. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But we used to call that German jumps. And then you move the elastic up and you get all fancy with it. But every time you played that game, or you played a really good game of skipping, you would have a rhyme. You would have a story that fitted in with your jumping game. So I'd like to start off with what's a rhyme, but also a story. And this is a game, this is when you play the skipping, you would do that, but also you'll see the connection to what I was telling you earlier about the mischief. This old man lived up our street. He's the grumpiest fella that you ever will meet. When you bang on his door with a rat-a-tat-tat, join in next time. Sure, he'd roar out the window, "Go on out of that!" He ate fried sausages for his tea, and he'd never give any to you nor me. If your ball went over, that was that. You'd never get it back from. Go on out of that! I want to hear you joining in next time, okay? He had a little budgie called Kidney Pie. Now she was the apple of his eye. But one day, Kidney Pie flew out, got stuck in my nana's chimney spout. We clapped our hands and gave her a fright, and up she flew into the night. We caught her in me cousin Johnny's jacket. Oh, she made an awful squawking racket. Down we went to go on out the dust, and we banged on his door with a rat-a-tat-tat. What's all this? Said, go on out with your banging on me door with a rat-a-tat-tat. The echo's brilliant. Well, under me arm was a bird so black, she was peeping out from an owl coal sack. She was covered in soot from a chimney pot, but she was happy as Larry that she was caught. Oh, Kidney Pie, you've come back home. You didn't leave me all alone. And we saw a little tear come to his eye as back in the house flew Kidney Pie. He thanked us all, said we were great, and he gave us sausages from his plate. That's your reward for stopping by and rescuing my Kidney Pie. How do yous do? My name is Pat. No more I'll shout. Go on, Arida. Now yous are all me nicest friends. I'll find a way to make amends. Next thing, over his back wall came 37 lost footballs. There yous go, said old man Pat, and he closed the door, and that was that. Now years they come and years they go, and some jump high, and some jump
low.
But I'm never too old to tip me hat to the man they called. Go on, Arida. Lovely. I love the echo of voices all across the globe in the Zoom room. So thank you for that, making you work for your story tonight. Yeah, so we would knock on the door and we would run away, and then when you're playing that game, to make it even more annoying to the person, you'd sing that when you're outside the door, so they'd be doubly insulted by you. So I think for my next story, I would like to go a little bit into the darker side of mischief, and there's no darker mischief maker than the devil himself. So this story has the devil himself in it. And this is, I can hear somebody's phone going off in the room. Anyway, it's grand. Don't worry, the devil might be phoning me to tell me not to tell the story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. The devil is in this story, and this is an Irish story, but recently I heard a version of the story very, very close to it that I believe is from Eastern Europe. So if anybody knows a different version of this story, please send me a message. I'd love to know the version you've heard as well, because I'd love to find the connection between the two of them. So once there was a man with a twinkle in his eye, a big twinkle. And this particular Saturday in the village at the market, he met a woman. She also had a twinkle in her eye, a big twinkle. Well, the twinkles twinkle, and the two fell in love, and soon they got married. And they moved to a lovely little house at the edge of the village. And soon after that, they had a little baby. And soon after that, they had another little baby. And soon after that, they had another little baby. And soon after that, they had another little baby. And soon after that, very soon, there was a lot of children running around this tiny little house at the edge of the village. In fact, there were so many children that as the crow was flying overhead looking for something to eat for his dinner, didn't he look down and he thought he saw his dinner below? He thought he was looking at ants. There were so many children running around underneath. Now this house and this family was very full of love, but the one thing that they were missing was wealth. And if you don't have wealth, you can't eat. So it came to the day when there were so many children that the children could only eat once every day, and the mother and father could only eat once every 3 days. And another baby came and another baby came, and soon the day came when they had no food at all. "Husband," said the wife, "go out, please, and find us something. Just gather us a few berries or some nuts in the forest, please, or we'll starve." So the husband set out with a satchel on his back and began to walk towards the forest to pick some berries. But as he was walking, his stomach started to rumble and rumble and rumble. And somebody or something heard the rumbling. And that thing or that one was the devil himself. Never let it be said that he would get a chance to let mischief pass him by. So he appeared in front of the man, very close to the crossroads. But he was disguised. He was wearing a cape and a cap, and he had stooped himself down like an old merchant man. "Hello," he said to the man with the rumbling stomach. "Oh, hello, how are you?" said the man. I'm sorry, I can't stop. I'm on my way to the forest. My children are very hungry and I'm going to collect some berries." "Oh, don't be bothered at all going to the forest," said the devil in a very warm, merchanty, old man type voice. "You don't need to do that at all. I have something for you." "Have you food?" said the man. "I don't have anything to give you, but please, if you have any to spare, I'll take it." No, said the devil. "I have this." And he pulled up a single hazelnut. You're okay, said the man. Sure, look, that wouldn't even feed the baby. Well, I can't be taking your last hazelnut now. You're grand. I'll just go on to the forest. "Oh, no, said the devil. "I didn't say I'd give it to you. I'm going to swap you something for it. And it's no ordinary hazelnut. This is a magical hazelnut. And if you put that on the table and you wish, you will get all the food and all the clothes and all the land you could ever hope for. You'll get a bigger house as well if that's what you want. But I want something in return." "I don't have anything to offer you," said the man. We're poor. We don't have anything. That's why I'm going to the forest." "All I want," said the devil, "all I want is the thing that you don't know about in your house." The thing that I don't know about in my house? "The thing that you don't know about in your house." "Well, if I don't know about it, how can I know what it is to tell you whether I'll give it to you or not?" "That's the point," said the devil. "If you don't know about it, sure, what's it worth to you?" Good point, said the man. "I'll take it." And he shook hands with the devil. at the crossroads and took the hazelnut and reached into his satchel and put it in. And as he lifted his head to thank the old merchant again, he was gone. Well, he raced back to the house. He was so delighted with himself and his stomach was rumbling, but he didn't care. He knew soon he'd have food in his belly. And he burst in the door and there was his wife and his children looking for berries or nuts. I have better, he said. And he told them the story about the old merchant at the crossroad. And he told them about the magic hazelnut. And the children started jumping up and down. And they were thinking of all the food they'd eat. But his wife turned pale. And her face dropped. And tears started to come down from her eyes. What's wrong, wife? He said, what's wrong? But this is a magical hazelnut. And all I offered him was the thing I don't know about in my house. What you don't know about, husband, is the child in my belly, she said. Said the man. Well, listen, he said, we won't worry about this. This was just an old merchant. I'd know him anywhere. If I see him come near this house, I'll beat him with a stick, he said. He's not getting near any child of mine. Let's see if this thing works, will we? So they put the hazelnut on the table and they closed their eyes and they wished for the table to be covered in the most delicious food that you could imagine. It appeared. There was baskets of bread, there was chicken and beef, there was berries, there was cake, there was spicy food from faraway places. The children began to take handfuls and put them in their mouths and it tasted so delicious. And soon the wife herself began to eat and her worries began to ease. And when their bellies were full, they wished for fine clothes instead of the raggy ones they were wearing. And sure enough, every child had a brand new set of clothes. And they looked at their tiny house and they wished again, and the house began to grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the land around the house began to grow further and further and further until they lived in a beautiful house on many, many acres of land. And whenever they were hungry, they wished for more food. And now they could grow their own food. They could grow more. They had plenty of cattle. They had sheep. They had chickens. So after a lot of time had passed, of course, they'd forgotten all about the old man and everything was fine. And the day came for the beautiful baby to be born. It was a baby girl. And the house was so happy and all the children were peering in at their baby sister and everything was full of joy. But the wife took the baby in her arms and she walked out to the yard and she sat underneath the hawthorn tree, the same tree that had been in the small house all along. She loved that tree. And she began to weep and she began to tell the story of how she was afraid that her baby would be taken from her, her beautiful baby girl. And I don't know if you know this, but whenever we have a hawthorn tree, very close are the fairy folk. And they were listening. Well, that night, a knock came to the door. And the man and the woman opened the door, and there at the door was an old man and an old woman. Now, they didn't recognize this old man and woman. They'd never seen them before. And they asked for shelter for the night. Well, of course we have plenty of room. We've a big house. Come in, please. Rest your bones. There's a storm coming. Come in, please. And the old man and the old woman came in and they reached into their bag and they offered a cake of sweet bread to the couple in return for the hospitality. Well, sure, the couple had plenty of food and they didn't need this cake of sweet bread, but they didn't want to insult them. Thank you, they said. We'll put it, oh, it's still warm. We'll put it over by the window in the kitchen and we'll have it for the children in the morning. Thank you so much. Well, that night, when everybody was sleeping, I think you'll guess what happened. Up to the window crept the devil himself. And this time he was not dressed as an old merchant. This time he was leathery and ugly and sinewy and strong and fiery and smelly and all those things that we expect the devil to be. And he was coming for that baby. And he began to crawl his way in towards the window. And just as he was about to put his leg inside, he smelt that beautiful sweet cake on the table. "Whoa," he said, "sure, I'll have a little bit of cake before I have the baby, just as an appetizer." And he grabbed a bit of the sweet cake, and he put it in his mouth, and it was so delicious. And he began to climb in the window, but as he did, he had a pain in his stomach and this loud, loud voice in his head. It was as if something was talking from inside his skull. "Oh," said the voice, "I had to sit beneath the ground for a long time with the weight of the earth on my head as a seed. I have suffered, and so must you suffer." And the devil could feel the weight of the ground pushing him down, pushing him almost into the ground itself. And he pushed back, and it took all his might to lift it. And he began to climb in again into the room, one leg at a time. But he felt the pain in his stomach again, and again the loud voice in his head. And this time it said, "Oh, I had to grow, and my body was stretched. Long, long, long. I suffered, and so must you suffer." And the devil could feel his bones ripping apart like he was on a rack, and stretching. His whole spine began to pull and stretch. The pain. And he fought against it, and he pulled himself together. And again he began to climb in the window towards that baby. It must be there. He could smell the child. He was getting closer. But again he got this pain in his stomach. "Oh, when I was grown," said the voice, "a scythe came and cut my legs. I have suffered, and so must you suffer." The devil fell to his knees. It was as if somebody had cut him across the calves with a sharp blade, like somebody cutting wheat. But that wasn't enough to stop him. He pulled himself up and began to drag himself into the window. And again the voice came. "Oh," said the voice, "oh, I was taken to the barn and I was threshed. I have suffered, and so must you suffer." "Oh," said the devil. "Oh." He could feel the lashes against his face and his arms as if he was being flailed. But this made him even more determined. And this time he threw himself towards the window and grabbed the inside of the edge of the table. But the voice came again. "Oh," said the voice, "not so quick, devil. I was ground between two stones, and I have suffered, and so must you suffer." And the devil's face was squished as he felt two stones grinding and grinding and grinding. Oh, but he pushed. This time he was so angry. With all his devilish might, he grabbed the other side of the table and began to pull himself in. But the voice came again. "Oh," said the voice, "I was kneaded and punched in the bowl, and I was tossed around till I was pliable." "Oh," said the devil. "Oh." And he was punched so hard that he was black and blue. But you couldn't really tell because he was black and blue anyway. But as he climbed in further, the voice came one more time. "Bring it on," said the devil. "I know what's coming next. Bring it on. I'm well able for it." "Oh," said the voice, "and I was put into an oven, and the heat was turned up, and I had suffered, and so must you suffer." "Oh," said the devil, "oh, it feels just like home, just like hell. A little bit hotter, a little bit less comfortable, but come on, there's nothing more you can bring." Ah, said the voice. But when I was ready to be eaten, they took a knife and they first cut a small cross in my head. And then they quartered me in two. Stop, said the devil. You can keep your stupid baby. It's not worth being drawn and quartered for a baby. Sure, I can get a baby down the road in the next village. Keep that baby. That baby is way too much trouble, and you're not even that delicious a cake. You can keep your baby, and I'm never coming back to this house again. It's the worst hospitality I've ever had. You're not a nice cake. And he was gone. Now, listening to all this on the stairwell was the woman of the house with the little girl in her hands, in her arms, holding it so tight to her. And she was crying. She was crying and rocking, but this time she was crying tears of happiness. And she took her daughter back upstairs to bed. In the morning, she woke up and she told her husband all about what had happened. And they went to wake the old man and the old woman who had brought the beautiful magical cake to the house. But of course, they were long gone. And they walked down to the kitchen table where the hazelnut was always sitting in the middle. And of course, that was also gone. But every night, ever since that day, they would leave a cake of sweet bread by the window with a cross cut in the middle, just in case the devil decided to ever come back. And I can tell you one thing, it's a better alarm than any fancy alarm you get in your house for protecting against stolen babies. And that's my story. Lovely. So, thank you. I hear lots of clapping. Thank you. Thank you. I thought I see lots of woo people there. I thought for a little bit of mischief, because it's about mischief today, there's nothing more mischievous than doing something very, very uncertain. So I thought what we might do is we might have a little improvised story. Are you okay for that, people in the Zoom room?
We are indeed.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So I'm going to ask you, I'll show you what I'm going to do first. I have a bag here, a hag. This is full of things, random things that I have asked my lovely partner to put some stuff in this, and I have no idea what is in this. I can probably see in the top, but it's full, as you can see, it's full of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to tell a story, and I've enlisted the help of Nicole. You want to wave your hand so they think I'm not making you up? There's a hand in there. There's Nicole. Nicole is going to ding a little bell. And whenever she dings a little bell, I'm going to have to reach deep into the hat and pull something out and see where it fits in the story. Okay, but to start off, I'm going to ask you something in the Zoom room because you're here with me, lovely listeners. And I would like to ask somebody, can you tell me something that you would find in your attic, in an attic?
Old toys.
Old toys.
Spiders.
Old toys and spiders. Great. I'll take those two. We'll have one more. Should throw one more in.
Carpet. Old carpet.
Gary?
Photo albums.
What?
Photograph albums.
Photograph albums. Photographs. So we have photograph albums. We have old toys, and we have spiders. That's plenty. That's plenty. Because I have to channel this story. This is a story that's never before been told. So I'm just going to see if there's a story around that wants to be told. Oh, something coming. Once there was a little girl by the name of Alice. And Alice lived in a town. Now, Alice always wanted to live in the countryside because whenever she read storybooks, she would see all these beautiful pictures of old houses in the middle of nowhere. And she kind of wanted to live in a goth house in the middle of the countryside on a hill. She imagined herself opening the door in long black dresses, going, "Good evening." But she lived in an apartment in the middle of a town. So this wasn't really her life. But one day, Alice reached down into the letterbox and opened up a letter. The letter was from her uncle, who lived in France. And her uncle had invited her to come and stay for the summer in his chateau. He kept vineyards of grapes, but he also had a beautiful old apple orchard that had been in the family for many years. And he needed company for the summer. So he said, could Alice come over and maybe help him on the farm and in the vineyards? And of course, she said yes. Her parents told her she had to be on her best behavior now because her uncle was a very nice man and she had to keep him company. As soon as she got to France, all these people were speaking French. She was very confused by this because she didn't have a word of French. But she made her way down to her uncle's and he met her from the train. And there in front of her was the most beautiful chateau she had ever seen. It was crumbling around the edges. And up at the very top was a dark window, like the kind she'd imagined all her life. The very first time Alice, so Nicole's dinging a bell over there, I don't know if you can hear her, so I have to pull something. So she went, the very first time she went up the stairs, she opened the door to what seemed to be this room, and inside was a cow. A cow in the attic room in the middle of the chateau. Well, she closed the door because she got a fright and she ran down the stairs and asked her uncle, "Uncle, why is there a cow in the top of the house in the chateau? I thought you had a vineyard. I thought you had an orchard. Do you expect me to milk a cow?" Well, he looked at her so strangely. "A cow," he said. "You saw a cow when you opened the door?" "Yes," she said, "it was a cow. It was, I don't know what kind, it maybe a Frisian. I don't know what, I'm not a cow expert, but it was definitely a cow." And her uncle got very pale. "Sit down," he said. "I've something to tell you." And he reached in under the coffee table and he pulled out an old photo album and he showed her a picture. "This is a picture of your great grandmother," he said. She was an incredible woman, and people said she had a bit of a gift about her. She grew up in Ireland before she even came over here, and her name was Breege. And she used to love being out and playing in the meadows, and her favorite animal was a cow. But one day she came across a sick cow and she put her hand on it and the cow turned into a young man. Wait a second, hold on a minute," said Alice. You're telling me that my grandmother met a cow who turned into a young man, but cows are female and I don't understand. Can you explain a bit more?" "It doesn't matter," said her uncle. When Alice came back to the house, after talking to this young man who was a cow, she had a special gift. And this was the gift of healing. If anybody was very, very sick, she would put her hand on their face and they would recover from whatever illness it was. But there was only one thing about it. For one day every year, this person had to turn into a cow. That was the payment for being healed. And this cow had to be milked and the milk had to be left outside for the fairies. And that was the tradition in our family for many, many years. And And I've heard this story many times, but you're the first person in our family to see a cow. Did you really see a cow upstairs in the attic? I did, she said. Well, let's go up together. I want to see this cow. It's about time for a ding, I think. So the two of them walked up together into the attic room, and there beside the cow was 10 Canadian dollars. I'm very confused now, said Alice. 10 Canadian dollars. I know France and Canada have a connection, but why is there 10 Canadian dollars? And her uncle started to laugh. Oh, he said, I know who the cow is. I know who it is. There was a tourist here about a month ago, and he had awful gout. He had an awful pain in his leg, and I told him to go down to the well and take a sip from the well, and supposedly it has healing things, but we say that to the tourists, we don't really know. But I think that's the tourists, and he's after leaving 10 Canadian dollars as payment for healing. And there he is, he's the cow. This is a great holiday, said Alice. I'm hearing about ancestors I didn't know about. I'm 10 Canadian dollars richer, and what could happen next? And just as she said that, a spider landed on her nose. Well, at least this is just a spider, she said. And her uncle's face got dark. Oh no, he said. And he took the photo album out from under his arm, and he pulled out another photo. You see this man, he said. This is the neighbor from back home. We owed him a lot of money, and that's why I ran away to France. He said if he ever caught up with me, he'd do something unspeakable. And I said, look, I lost you.
Someone kidnapped you.
Don't lie, you went and made a cup of tea, didn't you?
That's what happens when you start talking about curses and spiders. I'm telling you, I went away. But I'll just finish up again because you missed about 14 chapters. So we'll go. We'll just finish up. I'll finish up the story. So what you missed was all sorts of epic battles on the roof in the attic, and then Alice remembered that she had a yo-yo with her from her old toy box, and she threw the yo-yo across, and the spider had grown huge at this point, and she knocked the spider square in the head, and the spider shed his skin completely. Oh, they want, and underneath the spider's skin was an electronic snail. And this was all that had been good about the man before he became evil and a spider. This was an electronic snail. And forevermore, the snail would go around leaving a little silver trail. And whenever that trail sealed around Alice, she was completely protected from all evil. It was like a magical circle of snail trail. And do you know what she did with the spider skin? You can guess. She put the spider skin on her, and it was so goth and so beautiful. And she walked down to her front door, and she opened the door just like she'd imagined all her life. And she said, "Good evening." And that's my story.
Yeah.
Marvelous.
Thank you.
Oops. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. It's
Oh,
lovely to have people in the room. It was really nice. Few people there.
Yeah. Hi, Baden. Thanks for
Hello.
joining us.
I've been trying for like 20 minutes.
Well, they kicked me out because I was making no sense. So they sent the hook after me.
No, I think someone tried to kidnap you.
I think
Is that why John called me and asked me if I could step in because he had somebody he was trying to get rid of?
You're not supposed to say that out loud.
Now you're trying to get me in trouble, Baden. It's all as sick. Give it back to him.
What, I don't know when you lost me. You got the first 2 stories, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We're fine. We're fine. We lost you around when there was a spider sitting around her nose somewhere. So we can assume it got huge in the in our absence. We can assume the spider got huge.
Got huge. There was big battles. There was lasers. There was also the roof lifted off. There was all sorts of mad stuff going on. Yeah.
Well, it's like you blink and you miss the moment.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have Netflix, so we didn't have catch up. So you just have to pay attention. And then, I'm going to use that in another story now. Whenever the spider lands on your nose, just be warned. That's great. Thanks so much, everyone. That was really fun.
All right. Do you have another story for us?
No, I'm looking at the time. I have to go. I'm in a call for my family. That's it. I'm away. I thought I only had a half an hour, so Nicole was on phone watch there for me. But I have to go and chat to stuff about my mom. So.
But it was lovely. It was lovely for you to be here.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Give your family our regards.
I will, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Órla, and thank you everyone that's joined us.
Thanks a million.
And for those that came late, they can catch her on catch up.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. You're lovely.
Will do.
See you soon. Bye bye.
See you.
Hope so.
Bye bye.
All right. And,
Oh.